Sonic Frontiers is a game I recently finished on stream, and since I don't have an actual genuine review on it, I kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on it. It's still a new game, so I figured, why not? Um, this game is actually pretty divided. I mean, if you look at I guess from writing perspective, but I'm not. I mean, game perspective, it could be better. I think we all agree on that, but there's a lot of other aspects of this game that people are very, very torn on. So I thought just giving my honest opinions on Sonic Frontiers um, to see what I think. So I'll be going over the islands, the bosses, cyberspace, replayability, little extra things, story. Story is probably going to be the last thing, but I thought I'd start out with Kronos Island in particular. I thought going island by island would be a good idea, just because they're all pretty different. Um, so looking at Kronos, it's it's open world, Sonic open world. A lot of people have been saying that Sonic needed to go open world. Sonic had to do this, and I'm kind of one of those people. I agree. I think a character that runs fast should at least attempt an open world game, and I think they did pretty good here. Kronos is a pretty good start to Sonic Frontiers, and I think it's not the most original look in terms of a design. Um, but hey, it's better than Green Hill, right? I think that kind of goes without saying. I think we're all sick of Green Hill at this point. Um, but I do like, and I'll probably go over this kind of thing for all the islands. Just I like how you run around. I like how even with how fast Sonic is, he feels like this island feels big and it feels vast. And again, this goes for all the islands, but I think Kronos is one of the better ones in my opinion. So Ares, Ares is probably my favorite island in the game. Um, I used to kind of resent it a little bit because it's a desert. I'm not a big fan of desert themes, but I think Ares, even with the theme, is what I think is the peak of Frontiers. I think this is like the full potential. I think if they make a sequel, and I'm not gonna be one of those Sonic fans that goes, "Oh, Frontiers 2" or "Frontiers the second." I'm just gonna say sequel because we all thought Forces 2 was gonna be a thing, and then we got Frontiers. Um, but if they are gonna make a sequel, and if it is gonna be open world again, I think Ares should be the blueprint for every map. Every new map, it should be Ares because it's had the best puzzles, it had the best bosses, it just had the best everything. I did the best challenges, the best layout. Um, there's the little part where you can go underground. I really, really liked Ares. Ares is probably still my favorite part of the entire game, and you can feel that when I streamed the game, because when I was streaming it, I was just enjoying Ares like crazy. Um, and then apparently Ares has the easiest speedrun strat in the entire game because I accidentally uncovered it, and well, I don't know. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, the nighttime. I love Ares at nighttime. It's so beautiful. It contrasts with the desert a little bit, so that's really really cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, seriously, Ares is probably the best one. Even this is coming from a guy who doesn't care for deserts in games. I'm not a big fan of World 2 in New Super Mario Bros. I'm not a big fan of Sandopolis. Um, I really this island is the best. Um, But speaking of which, now it's time to talk about my least favorite island, because of course, with the favorite comes the least favorite, and Chaos really just is not it. I don't know what happened. We went from my favorite island ever to my least favorite. I don't really care for Chaos, and I like the name. I do like the look of the island. The island looks really sick. It's like this volcanic ash land with like a little bit of ice at the peak of the mountain. I think it's really cool, but it's the hardest to traverse around. And it's like, yeah, you can unlock everything, you know. You can unlock like the rails to help you get there, but I don't know. I just don't like that idea. I think you made an open world game for a blue hedgehog that runs really fast. You think like, I don't know, you think you would just make it a bit easier to traverse, right? I mean, not like too easy. Obviously, you want to master stuff, but don't put it behind unlockable stuff, you know? Like, how to get from one island to another, that should be something I'm. Like, it's not so easy that you know, you're gonna make it 2 minutes within being in the island, but it shouldn't be like, oh, you need to unlock this to get to this side of the island. Because the other islands, you could just go. You could go there. Like, even if you didn't unlock a Chaos Emerald yet, you could still go to that shrine. But this one, it was like, nope, you gotta do some story before you get anything done. And like, it's not the worst thing ever, but when you just finished 2 islands that did not do that, and especially for an open world game, it does kind of throw it off a little bit. And also, you just saw there 2D sections. I think Chaos has the most 2D sections out of any of the islands, and it's not. I'm not like anti 2D for Sonic. You know, there's like a lot of people that are like, nope, we need him to be 3D. He needs to be 3D. Or then you have like the the lenient people that are like, oh well, you know, 2D's not bad, but I just prefer 3D. So if we can get 3D, it's just their soft way of saying they want 3D. They don't want 2D anymore. I'm not one of those people, but again, in the open world, it does kind of throw it off a little bit. We're going to talk about cyberspace in a bit, and I think that's where 2D was utilized the best. I think like if they wanted to make 2D things in this game, they should have just kept it with cyberspace, because in the open world it is very jarring, especially when Chaos is the one with like the most 2D out of all of the islands. So um but next I do want to go to the island after this, which is probably the shortest island. So now we finished like one of the worst islands in the game. Let's talk about the most underwhelming in the game. Rhea is cool. My hot take is I love Rhea. I like the idea of these like long vertical towers that kind of play like modern levels, you know? But again, instead of going horizontal, you were climbing up these towers, and I do like that. I think they're fun. Like, all of the towers in Rhea are probably better than every modern Sonic level in Forces. Like, I think we can at least agree on that, right? Um, but that doesn't change the fact that this island is just way too small, and it could have either been lumped in with Aranos, or it could have, you know, just been a bit longer, at least. I don't know, give us, like, it could have been an island where it's like the other conventional islands where you still have to collect tokens and you still have to like unlock stuff. Just the towers could have been the cherry on top, and I think if that was how they went with it, then this would have been my favorite island in the game. But this island is just, it's just the towers. That's all. That's it. And I know the whole thing of Kronos, Rhea, and Aranos originally being like one big island. I don't care. I don't. Like, if they had to separate the three, that's fine. But they could have at least added more meat to Rhea, so it didn't look as obvious, you know? Like, and I'm also not one of those people that are like, oh, Chronos, Rhea, and Aranos have the same theme. They're all that grassy theme. And it's like, yeah, I mean, this is the location of the game. I don't know what to tell you. Um, like it is a bland looking location, but I'm just getting more level. That's fine. And again, at least it's not Green Hill, but that takes us to the final island. Here is the final island, Aranos. And this is one of my favorite ones. I don't care if it just looks like a reskin of Chronos. I really don't. Because to me, this just, the way I put it is this is Chronos hard mode. It has harder bosses. It has, you know, just harder puzzles. It's a bit longer than Chronos. Um, oh, actually, harder than Chronos with the exception of like that laser puzzle. Yeah, I didn't like that at all. But I'll go over that over gameplay. But this is just a better island in my opinion. Um, than Chronos. It's Chronos but better. There was a little boss over here that we fought on stream, and I genuinely liked it. It was really cool because this whole puzzle, this whole like platforming section is for that mini boss, and it's like what the fuck, you know? Like this isn't even a main boss. This is just a little mini boss, so you can get like a portal gear. This is insane. Um, but anyway, that's enough about the islands. I've talked about all of them, and I know what you're thinking. I have not gone over gameplay yet, and well, I wanted to kind of go over the islands before talking about gameplay. And now that we're here, let's get into it. Let's get into open world gameplay. It's really fun. It is. It genuinely is. I think this is probably, maybe, arguably, the best that Boost Sonic has ever been in 3D. I'm not gonna get into like Rush, all the 2D games. I'm not gonna do that. Just compared to 3D, this is probably the best that 3D Sonic has felt in the modern age. Um, I would argue platforming wise too. I know it's like a lot of automation. I've never been too much of a stickler about automation. I don't care. Um, my issue is if you use too much. Like there are some sections where there's like tons of loops, or not, yeah, like the little hoops you go through. Instead of the just being one or two of them, it's like a row of like 10, and it's like you did not need to line all those up like that. I only needed to go through one, but whatever, you know. Um, but gameplay is really fun in this game. At least for open world, you have the settings to help with your controls, so that's really cool. Um, I kind of just turned everything on max because I know what type of game this is. It's a boost game. I'm not like trying to feed my hunger of momentum. I could care less, you know. I just want to go fast. And if momentum is not the priority in this game and boost is, then I'm gonna help the boost out. I'm not gonna try to find ways to make it feel like a momentum game. Um, we've got, you know, the puzzles in this area. There's like boss fights, and they're hit or miss. You know, I think like this boss right here that I'm fighting right now is a pretty fun one. It's really difficult, a lot of challenge to it, kind of, even though I kind of know how to defeat it anyway. You just kind of chill here. But other than that, you know, it's just fun. I mean, so, like I said, some puzzles are hit or miss. There's the laser light puzzle in Chronos. That isn't the best thing ever. Um, there's like, oh, there's like, it's just not fun. You know, I don't know how to explain it. Um, I didn't really go through all the puzzles in this playthrough, but there's like the tile one. I think that one wasn't that fun. Um, the jump rope one really isn't that fun either. Doing the cheese for it, the little trick you can do, makes it a bit funny, but I wouldn't say it's fun, you know? The enemy layout is pretty good. It really tests out your combat. The combat's really fun. If you like beat 'em ups, this is fine. You know, it's better than Werehog in my opinion. I just think that it could use some fine tuning in the future. Like if we're ever gonna see the combat again, then maybe work on it a bit more. Um, because a lot of it can just be done with like two actions. But a lot of people will say it's button mashy. It really is not. You can kill all of these enemies however you want. There's no set way. Like you don't just have to press one button. You don't have to press like 50 different buttons at a certain time. You can kill these enemies any way you want. Like a lot of the time I do the leg kick with the hand blast combo. That's usually how I do it. Sometimes I use like the quick Psy loop. Speaking of which, the Psy loop is in this game, and if you're gonna keep any of the new combat mechanics, Psy loop is the one. You have got to keep Psy loop. It's so convenient. It's fun. Um, it's the only one I think besides maybe the leg kick one. I forgot the name of it, but it's the only one where it's not just a combat ability. It feels like an actual thing that Sonic can do, and that's pretty cool. So if they do keep it, that's kind of fine. Um, there is a drop dash in this. It's not the best though, but if you know how to utilize it, it is pretty good. It does help you get up to like certain areas though. Like there's a part in Chaos where there's ice, so you'll slip down. But if you use the drop dash consecutively, like repeatedly, at the right times, you can use it to help you get up there. And it's not the strongest thing ever. There's a little bit of momentum with it too, um, but you know, people, a lot of people don't understand that. Where it's like it's either momentum or no momentum. But this game does have some momentum in it. I do understand if like people want more, but like if you go on a rail, right? Um, you can get some insane air. Like hold on, let me give this a go. You can get some insane air with a rail. If you run up on a cliff, you can go up high. There's lots of ways to get momentum without necessarily like playing like a momentum game. Uh, it's still in a way that feels satisfying, you know. Um, and before we move on, we're talking about the open world and whatnot. I do want to talk about the final subject in my open world spiel, and that is the bosses. The bosses were good. I I think my least favorite was probably Supreme, and not just Supreme, but the end. I didn't really care for the end either. I don't think the end is as hard as people make it out to be, but that's not why I don't like the end. I just don't like the end because I think it's boring. Um, and like maybe if that style of boss fight was for, I don't know, the second or third boss and not the final boss, then maybe I would have had a bit more fun with it. I would have been like, oh, okay, we're doing the hacking mini game as a boss, cool. But since it's like the final boss, it does kind of feel a little anticlimactic. While at the same time, this whole ass meteor is making comments at you about how they're the most powerful being in the world, and they're not done once you defeat them once. They're gonna come back. It's the end. You're finished. They're the absolute, and it's like, okay, why am I beating you up by playing Galaga? I don't get it. Um, so I don't know. It's just but the other bosses are good. I like Giganto. Knight has probably the best cinematics out of any of the bosses. And Wyvern is just my favorite one. I like the and yeah, I even like that little road that you run on to get to him. It's a little long, but I do think it's really cool. It adds to the theme of Ares because there is a section where you do have to run on a little road, and I think that's pretty cool. Um, it adds kind of this like spectacle to the game a little bit. I also just like the design of Wyvern the most. He's just a cool little dude. Um, but yeah, I mean, so there's that, and with that, I think we have to talk about the cyberspace. So with this game comes, regular Sonic levels, known as cyberspace. You collect these little gears within the open world, and you can use those to basically unlock these like little altars that kind of help you, and you can play these little levels. And some of them have layouts from past levels. Um, in this case, this one kind of looks like I think it's called Windmill Isle from Sonic Unleashed, but I'm not entirely sure. Um, but they some of them, not all of them, have like these layouts of previous levels, and you can also, but they're also kind of in the aesthetic of like the classic games. I know original. But you got your favorites. You got Green Hill, you got Sky Sanctuary, you got Chemical Plant, and you've got what I believe is City Escape. A lot of people think this is a new aesthetic, but I personally just think it's City Escape, but with newer assets. They just don't want to make it aware that it's City Escape, because in the story, Eggman is like talking about gun robots, but they don't have the gun logos on the machinery and the vehicles and whatever. So I think this is just City Escape without them saying it's City Escape, but a lot of people do think this is a new zone or aesthetic. But I love cyberspace. I know the physics are like janky as all, but I love cyberspace. I really do. This is like, it's fun. My only complaints are the controls themselves, but at the same time, I like the controls because when you're playing cyberspace conventionally, it's really, the controls are very jank. But when you play cyberspace without, or non-conventionally, I should say, it's very fun. It's it is so fun to break these levels, especially when they're levels that were layouts of previous Sonic games. So like I think don't take my word for it, but I think this one's from Dragon Road, or, from Sonic Unleashed. I think it's Sonic Unleashed level. Um, Again, I'm not too knowledgeable on Unleashed, so I forgot the name of it, um, but you can see how I was like hopping with the boost, and it's just so fun. And then you can do this little skip that I kind of failed, but it is really, really fun to just kind of do that. Um, but yeah, no, the cyberspace, it's a double-edged sword. It's very, very fun, but it is also just whatever. Um, and while we're on the topic of cyberspace, I feel like I should talk about the music of the game, because the music is probably top 5 Sonic music. I'm just saying. Like, out of any Sonic track, Frontiers is probably top 5. Oh man, dude, Frontiers just slaps. All the music slaps. It's very fun to listen to. A lot of different genres as well. Um, you got like heavy metal, you got EDM, dubstep. It's just such like, this is probably the most diverse um, Sonic soundtrack. So even if it's not like the best, it's probably the most experimental, and it's really, really fun. Um, Again, my personal favorite song is probably Breaking Through It All, because it's like, starts off really slow, but then once you get to the climax of the song, it's probably the best, most hype out of any of the songs. Find Your Flame is such a good one, has such a good ending. And then Undefeatable is so like, it's just hype. Like, it's a good introduction song for Supersonic. I like the music of this game is insane. Cyberspace music. My only issue with the music is the cyberspace music. It's very hit or miss. Um, I like my favorite cyberspace track is probably, I think it's called Ephemeral. I love that track. Um, but there's some good ones in there too, like 1-2. I forgot the name of it, but the music of this game is insane. And then if you finish the game, um, I don't know if you I don't know if you can get this on normal mode too or not, but if you I know if you finish on hard mode, you get a secret song. You get Sage singing about Eggman, which is covered more in the story, which we're going to talk about next. Um, and then you get the post-credit song, which is sung by Nate Sharp, and I love Nate Sharp. He's probably one of my favorite solo artists, um, or favorite independent artists. So I think Sega is really smart for getting Nate Sharp to do music for them, because if Crush 40 is getting too old, they're getting past their prime. Nate Sharp is a good successor. It's a little bit different from the early 2000s, but it's not too different. And again, I might have a little bias just because I love Nate Sharp's tracks. I'm a big Nate Sharp guy. Love the anime covers. This isn't even a shout out. This is just me admitting um, my love for music and my love for him as an artist. But it's a really good song, and it's like an allegory for Sonic Team. So a lot of the hardcore fans can eat that up. Um, and then if you're just a casual like me, you can kind of you can jam to it. It's really cool. And it has a deep message, so it's a good credit song. It was a good way to cap off the game. And but yeah, I think it's time to talk about the story of Frontiers. So Frontiers' story, hot take, I really don't care for. I think it's one of the best executed Sonic stories of all time. Like just watching the story out of context, it's kind of like Spider-Man No Way Home, where it's like the way the story looks is immaculate. It's insane. Like I want to keep watching. I want to keep going, but the story itself is heavily flawed. Um, and it mostly has to do with the characters for me. And again, this is just my opinion. You all can have your thing of like, oh, this is the best Sonic story ever. But I don't know. I think it could have used a lot more work. This is better than a lot of meta era stuff we've been getting, or quote unquote meta era. I don't really like calling it meta era, but that's another video. But I digress. It is one of the better stories we've gotten in recent Sonic games, though. Even if I still am not like too big of a fan of it, I can at least find some appreciation for this story. Um, like I do like the character interactions. One of the reasons why Ares is my favorite island in the game is because I just love seeing Sonic and Knuckles back to the dynamic that they used to be in, where it's a buddy rivalry. Like they're friends, but they're rivals. They like to get in each other's throats, but they do care about each other, and I love that. I think this is the Sonic game that shows off Sonic and Knuckles' dynamic the best. I do think that Knuckles' character, while some of it is portrayed a little rough, I do think his interactions with Sonic are very accurate. Um, but I'm gonna take a step back a little bit. We're gonna talk about Amy first. I'm gonna go in order of the islands. Amy, Amy was Amy. I mean, it's really hard to tell what you want to do with Amy's character. She's always been all over the place, and she's always been controversial for being all over the place, and people not actually understanding what Amy is about and what is best for her character. So I think it was a good move for Ian Flynn, which again is the script writer for the game, um, which is not the worst thing, but I will go into the flaws of it. Um, but anyway, Amy just I think it was a good idea to finally give Amy some purpose other than just I love Sonic, what can I do to be around Sonic? Um, and I like how instead of just trying to find something completely different to do with her, they kind of took that love for Sonic and gave her a goal. And she wants to spread love she wants to spread the love that she has for Sonic around the world, and that's really it's good. It's like she finally has something consistent that, you know, doesn't just have to do with Sonic, but, you know, it's not straying away from her feelings for Sonic. Um, and their dynamic is really nice. I think there's a scene in this game that I think is the best Amy moment ever. I love it. It's the moment she realizes what she wants to do, and she realizes that she did kind of waste her time. Um, because like the delivery is just insane. I love it. It's amazing. But again, there's nothing much to say about Amy. There was like the side quest with the Coco, and I'm surprised I haven't talked about the Coco yet. The Coco are beings on the island that Sonic and gang go to explore. Um, Sonic and the gang go to the Starfall Islands after um, realizing that the Chaos Emeralds are, you know, going there. So they want to find out why the Chaos Emeralds are going to the Starfall Islands, and it's because Eggman kind of activated the Starfall Islands to do research and whatever, and you know that you find out later that's kind of why. But then you learn more about the Coco. As you learn more about the characters, you learn more about the Coco, and the Coco are essentially the dead souls of the ancients, and the ancients are the original keepers of the Chaos Emeralds, basically. Um, you know, that might be the best part of the story is the Chaos Emerald origins. It's probably the most consistent part. Um, but even then, you could argue like the altars in Sonic Unleashed. But again, that's wish-washy. That's something we gotta like thoroughly kind of explore a bit more. Um, but the ancients are pretty good. I liked that they look like chaos. That was good for shock value. It really did. I also like how the ancients are basically just ancestors to Chao, and the reason that we had Chao or because it's the ancients, but they're affected by the radiation of the Chaos Emeralds. So that's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, so again, I felt like I should just lay that out for, you know, for the story, because that is kind of the main part of the story. Um, but back to the characters. So all the characters kind of get a Coco to kind of basically show it's sort of like a metaphorical reflection of where they have to go, and how they are doing. You know, so Amy's was about love, so the Coco was trying to find their lost love, and that's what made Amy realize that she basically just wants to be a love doctor, and that's not bad. I'm fine with that, you know. Um, but anyway, back to Knuckles. Knuckles was really good, and his Coco was I think a war general trying to lead the Ancients' army from the attack of the end. And he Knuckles is on the island for a completely different reason. Knuckles didn't go with Sonic, Tails, and Amy. Knuckles is on the island because he was also snooping around the Ancients' technology, but he didn't know about the Starfall Islands. He wasn't going there. He basically thought he was snooping around Sky Sanctuary. Um, and he kind of just accidentally got caught up into the mess of things. He kind of just was around, you know. Um, he didn't even know about the Chaos Emeralds and whatever. Um, but yeah, so Knuckles' whole thing was, you know, being by himself. He has to protect the Master Emerald, but he's sick of being alone. And Sonic, you know, basically just showing him like, dude, you can get away from your island every once in a while. And he's like, you know what, you're right. You know, I try to leave every once in a while, and do stuff with you guys, explore the world. My issue with Knuckles is the execution was beautiful. I loved it, but again, my issue with it was he acts like he's never left his island before. But when you look at past games, And they make it pretty damn believable too, but then when you look at past games, he's he's never on his island. He's never there. So I'm very very cautious about what they do with Knuckles. Um, but other than that, I think Knuckles had the best execution out of all the characters. Then we get to Chaos Island, and we get to Tails. Tails, I I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Tails' character in the game. If you don't know me, I defend the Forces Tails. I defend that scene in Forces where he's like, Sonic, help me. Because I do think it's a natural for Tails to act out of character when he loses his best friend, and especially for a long amount of time. I think it's natural, I think it is like that he is a little bit different. Like I think the delivery and I think the line that he says could have been better. It didn't have to be Sonic help me, but I do think that the way he was acting in the game was fine. It was justifiable. It's like this is where I don't understand Sonic fans sometimes. It's like I don't understand if you want characters to go through arcs that change their character up a little bit, or if you want them to just be static and the same forever. Um, but anyway, Frontiers tries to rectify the whole quote unquote issue with Forces Tales and like I guess even Lost World to an extent. I don't know how these fans think, so sure. Um, and again, it's very well executed. The idea that Tails wants to go on his own, wants to do his own thing, without Sonic, and what's holding him back is Sonic. He wants to try adventuring on his own, because he's been with Sonic so long. But again, when you look at past games, a lot of the ways that Tails was acting was kind of justifiable. Like it really wasn't that bad. It's this idea, and again, this can be a video, a future video, but this idea that the fans just, in my opinion, the fans just think that Tails needs to be this perfect being, like this overly confident, like, oh, well, he's a bit more mature now, so he can be like Sonic but better probably. It's like, well, if the characters still have their canon ages, I don't know anymore with Ian Flynn, but I think as of right now they don't. But back then when they did have ages, Tails is 8. Like Tails is still a kid. He can be as confident and smug as he wants. He can be more confident and smug than Sonic, but he is still a kid. He is still younger than Sonic. He's still the little brother to Sonic. So obviously he's gonna have his moments where he's like a little bit shy or a little bit too scared, and that's okay. Like you don't need to do that, and I think Frontiers did a good job of at least subtly telling that to the viewer of like, yo, that's just part of growing up. Sometimes you stumble and fall. But I don't like how it took a game after a game to literally spoon feed word for word that idea to the fans for them to go, oh yeah, of course. But his character is still bad in the previous game. Like, I don't understand that. I really don't. Because again, there really was no issue. It was just Tails going through a different arc. And again, yeah, the execution could have been better, but the idea was still there, and it's a video game. I don't expect like AAA writing, you know. Um, but anyway, yeah, Tails was whatever. I don't know. But then we get to the new character, Sage. Sage is the supposed villain of the game, even though once you play it, you kind of learn that she's really not the villain. She kind of is just another character. She's an AI created by Eggman with, I think it's mixed with like the technology of the ancients after what he's like studied, or maybe she's just a new AI. I don't remember, but she's supposed to be like the new Orbot and Cubot in a way. Orbot and Cubot's still there. Don't worry, like the two fans that care. But she's kind of like she kind of exerts like little girl energy. She's like excited, she's curious, she's questioning stuff, but she's also like shy. Um, so I mean, she's an okay character. But I do like how they play with that dynamic where because she's been with Sonic and Eggman, she's not really evil, but she's not really good. She still kind of just has that young mind where it's like very influential. She doesn't know what she wants. She just kind of follows the people that are around her. And I don't know, I just thought it was kind of cute. I think Sonic and Sage's dynamic was cool. The idea that Sage was holding out on Sonic for all the information when she could have just told him, but she also had allegiance to Eggman. She wants Eggman to be safe, so she's like disobeying his orders, not because she's like defected or because she's trying to be rebellious, but she's doing it because she just cares about Eggman. So I think that's cute. I think it's cool. Um, but Sage is not like my favorite antagonist we've had. I think we've done better. Um, but all in all, like as a character in general, she's pretty cool. Eggman is really like insanely good in this game. I like the idea of Eggman taking a back seat for good. Not just Eggman being the main villain, but then it's a fake out for the actual main villain. Not just Eggman being being in the back seat and the plot twist is he is the main villain. No, like he is genuinely the he is taking a back seat. There's no bait and switch. There's no plot twist. He is just taking a back seat, and I do like that. Like he isn't necessarily the villain. I think the way that they did it was like he was supposed to be the main villain at the very beginning of the game, but then after his like little oopsie, he kind of just was like, oh well, now I just want to get out of here. And I think that was really cool. The actual main villain I think is the end, which is still something. But I've kind of gone over all the characters. Sonic is Sonic. I didn't really need to talk about Sonic. He's you know he also takes a back seat. Um, and he's pretty good. What I don't get either is like a couple of times in the game, he does like meta era jokes, quote unquote meta era, and people go, aha, that's funny, that's pretty funny, and it makes me think, do people actually hate the new Sonic, or do they just it's just because they don't like the stories of the other games, so they gotta like find a way to they gotta find filler excuses and whatnot. I don't know. Because there were some jokes in there that felt very 2010 Sonic, and I thought they were a little funny, but I was shocked that a lot of like adventure fans thought it was funny too, and I was like, okay, well it's not the delivery, because the delivery feels like it's from Lost World, um, in a sense, like so I don't know. I'm very confused about that, but other than that, Sonic's character is pretty much the same as it's usually been for the past decade. Um, it's kind of like a blend of the past decade and then the decade before, so that's kind of cool. I like the voice direction for Sonic, especially for Sonic, but I like it for all the characters this time around. Um, but I think now that we've talked about characters, I think we can kind of get into the meat of the story, which is the idea that Sonic, Amy, Tails, and apparently Knuckles are stuck on the Starfall Islands, and they got to find a way to get out. Sonic needs to save his friends and book it, and it's a pretty good story, all things considered. The pacing is really good. It's not the best story, but I do think the pacing is really good. But I think now it's time to talk about the end of the story. So the end of the story, right? It's Sonic defeats all the Titans, but as he keeps fighting the Titans, he gets more corrupt. Um, he gets weaker essentially by saving all of his friends. He has to collect Chaos Emeralds and then take on the Titans by going super. And then after that, he kind of just he gets a little bit weaker, and it doesn't really become super apparent until like the third island. Then Tails starts to notice it, like, dude, you're getting significantly weak. You need help. What do you need me to do? You know. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than that, like the story is all right. It is like the main story itself, like taking the characters out of the question and just talking about the actual story. It is pretty good. It ends with Sonic basically losing his mind. He's too weak to carry on. So his friends basically go back into cyberspace to give Sonic the upper hand. Um, while Eggman and Sonic need to do, oh boy, they need to team up. And then, like, wow, we've never seen them team up before. They try to make it like this big deal, but at the same time, they are aware that they've done this a lot before. Specifically, Sage is like, yo, you guys stopped the Ark. You took on Neo Metal. You guys have teamed up before. Like, why is it such an issue? And so I like, but I dislike that. I like how they play on it, and they also don't. But anyway, Sonic fights the final Titan, and then the end comes out and is like, oh, I'm gonna destroy everything. So Sonic, with the help of Sage and the final Titan, Sage is like piloting it. They take out the final boss, and Sage basically sacrifices herself as the Supreme Titan, and then Eggman kind of, losing basically a daughter, or what is a daughter to him. It hurts him. It does put him in the feels a little bit, and I think that's really good for Eggman and his character. Um, but it ends with Sonic and the gang. I think Eggman too, leaving the island, um, all with their new goals and accomplishments set in motion. And I think it was a good wrap up. It was really fun. It felt satisfying, Even if I don't like everything about the story, it did really feel satisfying to see these characters at least feel like themselves again. So I do gotta commend the writers for that. That is really good. Um, so I mean, yeah. I feel like I've touched up on everything in Frontiers. Oh, yeah, there is the part where Eggman basically brings Sage back online, and oh boy, what's gonna happen in the next game, or even the DLC maybe? Who knows? Um, I guess the other thing I can touch up on is the fishing. The fishing's fun, but I didn't really talk about it much because it's fishing. That's really it. It's like a timing game, like a rhythm game, sort of. You can get a lot of rewards. You can get these like Eggman memos too. Those are kind of cool. But I think I've gone over everything. I think this is a pretty solid Sonic game. I would put this in my top 5 for Sonic games. Even with the flaws, I think this is it's a really fun Sonic game. Um, and if this is the blueprint for the future, then it's looking pretty bright. So I hope you all enjoyed this pretty long review, pretty rocky review too. Um, and I'll see you guys around.